Okay, go ahead and make sure that you accept the live transcript so that you, the disclaimer message when it appears, or you will be removed from the meeting. I'm now going to turn it over to Anthony Burek and his team, who will be presenting using Canvas and participating in the California Distance Learning Cooperative. Hey, Anthony.
Okay, thanks so much, Renee. Again, good afternoon. Welcome to our session today using Canvas and participating in the California Distance Learning Cooperative. My name is Anthony Burek. I am the OTAN coordinator for distance learning projects. Again, joined by Renee Collins, the Director of Adult Education, and our all-star panel. Today we have Tanya Cobb from Santa Monica Malibu Adult Education Center, Alfred Miller from the Berkeley Adult School, Ed Schmalzel from Clovis Adult Ed, and then Uta Mashka and James Jones from East Region Adult Education Consortium. And we are here today, all of us, to talk about Canvas and our participation in the California Distance Learning Cooperative, or the CDLC, and to share really our experiences with Canvas so far, to answer your questions about Canvas, and encourage you to also become CDLC members moving forward. But we'll talk more about that as we proceed through the session. So again, just a quick rundown of our agenda today. We're going to talk about the CDLC. Renee's going to start with that, talking about the CDLC, its inception, current goals, and kind of where things stand with the CDLC at the moment. And then we're going to turn it over to our panelists, Tanya, Alfred, Ed, Uta, and James. They're going to share their experiences at their agencies, especially around implementation challenges, successes, kind of what's been going on at their agencies with Canvas. We'll take questions kind of throughout. We have some kind of breaks during the session that we will open it up for questions. And then when we close, we will talk more about getting involved in the CDLC, how you could do that at your agency. We do have a link to our CDLC webpage. It's the bit.ly link at the bottom, bit.ly/. And then it's case sensitive after the slash. So it's capital CDLC and then the word Canvas with the capital C. And that will take you to the webpage on the OTAN website. Just a word about OTAN. We are one of 3 state leadership projects for adult education in California, along with CASAS and CalPro. We focus on applying technology in adult education programs and classrooms and schools and things like that. So for more information, please visit the OTAN website, otan.us. And I will just say too, just kind of a shout out to Cape TAP, which has been administering the CDLC for almost 2 years now. We're going to turn it over to Renee to hear more about that. We work in partnership with Cape TAP on the management of the CDLC. And again, just thanks so much to the Cape TAP program for really kind of guiding us on getting the CDLC started. So before I turn it over to Renee, just a word about the CDLC. So it is a partnership between the Sacramento County Office of Education, OTAN, and Cape TAP Adult Education Leadership Projects, and Instructure, which is the manager of Canvas, to basically provide access to the Canvas learning management system. So without further ado, let me turn it over to Renee to give us more kind of background on CDLC before we hear from our panelists. Renee.
All right, thank you, Anthony. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about the inception or the idea behind bringing the California Distance Learning Cooperative, or Canvas, to our adult ed program throughout the state. So learning management systems are nothing new to OTAN, for sure. We have run Moodle for the last 15 plus years. And many of you have also used Blackboard or other LMS learning management systems throughout the years. So LMS is something that many of us are familiar with. However, we started in the midst of the pandemic. We started wondering whether Canvas might be something that we wanted to explore, because it had kind of the greater bells and whistles that modern LMS have. And many of our community colleges had already adopted Canvas. In fact, the entire community college system, including our non-credit system, had adopted Canvas, as well as many of our higher education systems and many of our K-12 programs. So in order to kind of facilitate that, potentially facilitate that transition between educational institutions, we thought maybe Canvas is something that we should look into. In 2020, we determined to do an LMS survey, an OTAN LMS survey, and we had 68 agencies participate, and serving over 200,000 students. And of those who responded, 22 were currently using Canvas. So potentially they were already, maybe they were a community college, or they had gone out and gotten it on their own in some cases, or maybe their district had already invested in Canvas and they were able to, by extension, have their adult ed be part of that K-12 adoption of Canvas. However, there were and the results of that survey were that more than 56,000 students from these 68 agencies felt like, or I'm sorry, from the 46 agencies that were not currently using Canvas, felt like they could launch Canvas successfully within a year of having it available to them. So then we started exploring even more, and we decided that we needed to move away from Moodle. Although it was an open educational resource and it was a free resource, we felt like Canvas, again, being adopted by the community college system, would be in closer alignment to what we were trying to achieve as far as strong transitions between adult ed and the community college. It also, Canvas is, we found that it was equitable. Students were able to use it from the classroom, home, work, or any remote setting. Canvas was flexible in that it could be used in a face-to-face setting. It could be used in a blended setting or a distance remote model. And it was accessible in that it could be available on many devices, maybe a phone or a tablet or a computer. So we did determine to move forward with Canvas at that time, and we started a pilot in January of 21. Well, in order to sign up for that pilot, we were only taking 25 agencies, and I think we had more than 25 within 3 days of posting it as available to the field. So it was very, very much sought after, and we did launch that pilot of Canvas in January 21. But we quickly found out, because of maybe the silver lining of the pandemic, was that we were not able to, as OTAN, travel and do our trainings the way that we normally would within the field. And so we had a lot of money within our contract that was going unspent. And we determined that we could, going through the amendment process, we could transfer this money with the support of California Department of Ed to basically a new project, which would be the implementation of Canvas statewide. So for about the first 6 months, we had the pilot of just the 25 agencies, but then we started what we called an expansion, the expansion list or the expansion project. And so we quickly built from 25 to any number of agencies that were interested in Canvas being available to use it. At this point, there is no limit to who can access Canvas via our adult education system or through OTAN. So that's a little bit of the background. The goals that we have are to make sure that we're preparing learners for success, whatever their educational setting. And I've heard recently that, or I've heard just over the last few months, so our students are all back in person, we don't need an LMS, or, and I feel like that might be a little, maybe the wrong, I hate to tell people they're wrong, but maybe short-sighted or maybe the wrong approach, in that we need, Canvas can be, it's an organizational tool to be able to to provide instruction in a singular space that students can access, whether they're in the classroom, whether they're in a blended type of class or a hybrid class, or whether they're doing distance learning or remote learning. So it is just as valid and useful, I think, whether you're doing it in person or not. We also wanted to make a high quality, equitable, and accessible LMS available to all adult education agencies, regardless of whether you're at the community college level or at the K-12 adult education level. So this is, we're basically, we have negotiated with Instructure, which is the parent company of Canvas, to be able to create a URL, a unique URL for every agency that wants it at no cost to the agency through at least June 2023. So when an agency decides that they want to start Canvas, there is kind of an implementation cost. So we've negotiated that cost is wiped, and it's only ever a one-time cost. So it's not that after 2023 that you would need to start paying an implementation cost. That's not the case. There's only a one-time implementation cost, and OTAN has been able to negotiate with Instructure to have that already paid for with that funding that I said we were able to reallocate from not traveling for a while. We were able to reallocate that to be used on Canvas. I also, another goal, I guess, is to continue to be able to negotiate statewide leveraged pricing for licensing, for Canvas licensing, and have that inclusive of services. So right now we have 24/7 helplines or access to Canvas for assistance. And that's both for our teachers and for our students, because all of our students are 18 plus. They're able to work directly with our students and not necessarily through a teacher. And we also have full access to their training portal. So it's recorded webinars, live webinars, additional services from that could be custom made for us here at OTAN and shared with the field. And then we also, there is a video platform that Canvas has called Studio that many people, once they kind of jump into Canvas and learn it, are very eager to have Studio. And so that's another perk. So this is something that we negotiate and with Instructure and then turn around and offer it to the field. And then again, maybe a final goal is to assist with post-secondary transition, especially that warm handoff to the community college, but it might also be that warm handoff from our K-12 system or maybe our children's schools to their parents as they're coming into adult ed. It can work both directions. I did want to just finish by saying what is currently happening. We have close to 50 agencies or consortia who have committed to using Canvas at their sites. In Q1, we had over 234,000 logins to the Canvas system. We have 123 active courses, 93 active teachers, 790 active students, with 4,576 individual logins. So I know that's kind of a lot to throw at you, but all that to say that we are getting a solid start to using Canvas within the adult education program statewide, but we are still actively trying to connect with programs that could benefit from having an LMS for their students. And we welcome, and I'm eager to have you hear from the panel, because they will be able to share with you how they've been able to either, in many cases, start very small with not a lot of resources and be able to identify how to successfully implement Canvas at their sites. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Anthony, and then I'll be back to answer any questions and tell you how to take next steps if you're interested at the end of the session. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Renee, for that introduction to the CDLC. And again, if you have questions as folks are presenting here, just go ahead and pop them in the chat, and we'll make sure to either answer them in the chat or we can take them live. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our first panelist, Tanya Cobb, who is currently at the Santa Monica Malibu Adult Education Center, where she is the Canvas and EL Civics lead. I've known Tanya for a while. I know that she is a very busy person, very busy woman. She's held a number of positions in adult education during her career, both on the K-12 adult ed side, as well as the community college side. So I'm going to turn it over to Tanya, and Tanya is going to tell us more about what is going on with Canvas at Santa Monica, Malibu. Tanya.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. Hi there. My name is Tanya Cobb, and yes, as Anthony said, adult ed is a small world. So yes, Anthony and I go way back. I've been in adult ed for, a few decades. I don't want to say how many decades because that'll just tell you how old I am. But I have only been at Santa Monica Malibu Adult School for about a year, but I had been using Canvas long before the pandemic with my community college students. And I used it at that time to, as I called it in my syllabus, to enhance my course, right? So it wasn't an online course, but I used it to enhance my course. I had a license through that community college and was able to do that. So over the years and since the pandemic and since being trained officially as an online educator, I had a lot of experience with Canvas. So cut to Santa Monica Malibu Adult School, and I do have a bit of a list here of successes and challenges, and so that's what I'm going to go through, and that's what I'm going to speak to, and hopefully maybe offer you some tips as well as to how to get this rolling at your adult school program. So I was ecstatic about the prospect of officially bringing Canvas to Santa Monica Malibu Adult School. When I first started there, I was in the classroom and I had already been using Canvas, so it made sense to use it with my my advanced students. So we did. I of course had to go through all the things that you need to go through in order to help students get acclimated to Canvas. And so I did that. I then taught that next semester, I taught them in a hybrid version. And so they, did fine with Canvas. So when the opportunity was presented to me to be a part of bringing it to Santa Monica Malibu, I truly jumped at it. So we began this process around June or so. I do see a couple of my colleagues here. So I'm so glad that they are here. So we began around June or so. And when I say we, I mean the administrative side of it. So we participated in sort of the admin side of it, right? How to create your instance and how to, because I had been involved as a teacher, but hadn't really been involved on the administrative side. So we learned all about that. The two people with me didn't know anything at all about Canvas. And so they were really troopers to join the effort. We were often in the training by ourselves. So that meant that we had to sort of help the Canvas folks, the instructor folks, learn about adult ed ease, right? So they would be using, attendance systems and such that we don't have in adult ed, and we'd have to sort of educate them on, well, it's different in adult ed. So it was nice on the one hand to just be there with just us so we could ask our questions and have all of our questions addressed. However, we did, I think, at some time feel like a bit of a broken record in terms of telling them, well, that's not us, that's not our students. So we began with that start, and then the plan was to then train the teachers. So one of the things I have to kind of go back and forth between my successes and challenges and tips here, but one of the things I wanted to mention about Santa Monica Malibu Adult is that right away, I knew that we had such support from our consortium. I knew that they were a part of making sure that this happened at our adult school. And I was happy with that because that meant that, we would actually get it done. So we are a small school. So because we're a small school, that has its challenges, right? But there, in my estimation, are far more just benefits to being a small school, because one of my tips would be to be ready to pivot, at all times. Be ready to, best laid plans. We had plans to roll it out with our teachers and then roll it out with a program at our school. And we've had to pivot along the way. And it's easier for us to pivot because we are a small school. So we began our teacher training, I would say around early September or so. And the way that we began that, one of my tips is to make the Canvas implementation a part of as many meetings as possible, right? Have it be an agenda item where you're always, touching on what's going on, what's the progress, what are the next steps. We have a PLC, and so that became the main thing that we did in our PLC, was to focus on Canvas training for the teachers. Of course, along with that came having a budget to pay the teachers. I'm a real advocate for making sure that you are able to compensate teachers for the training, right? But not just training like, okay, we've spent a couple of hours learning this particular module, but teachers really need time to play in Canvas, right? They need time to, and a limit to the time, right? It's not limitless, right? But some time to be professionals and to learn the system, and they can really only do that on their own time. So building that into the budget was really important. Again, I have to shout out my school in the sense that, and again, because maybe it's a small school, but each and every time, and there have been several where I've said, can we pay teachers for this or that? Something that was not a part of our budget. And the answer has always been, yes, we can. So we started rolling it out in September. We intentionally had the first couple of meetings be face-to-face. It's one thing to learn how to do something, a learning management system. Sure, maybe if you're familiar with it, you could learn how to do it online, but I really wanted to start those first few meetings, being face-to-face, so I could, touch the computers with them and such. And so we did that. The first couple of meetings, we went through the modules. Each meeting, we had some level of homework, something for the students to do, or excuse me, for the teachers to do, but they were students. And addressed questions and such. So we did that. There are in the Canvas teacher training module, I think there are a number of modules, but we intentionally only did the first four, because the latter ones tended to be a little more technical, and you really needed to have students in the actual Canvas classes, and we weren't there yet. So that brings me to one of the challenges. So the spirit of this, which we started with on our every agenda, I had a quote by Richard DeFore, which is to learn by doing. That the spirit of this is that we are going to learn how to do this by doing it. Not that I'm going to come in and show you how to do it and then you go off your merry way and you just do it, right? But that we're learning by doing. By having that spirit, it helped, I think, with teachers, and it's so important to have their buy-in, right? With teachers feeling okay with not being able to do it correctly, with, dare I say, failing, right? But that we're here to learn together, and we are going to learn it by doing it. And if it takes us to do it again and again and again, then that's what we're going to do. So that, I think, created some level of buy-in, some trust as well, which I think that you need when you are trying to implement something so big, so unknown to so many people. So we had the meetings, the trainings, teachers would do their homework. The plan was that along the way, the administrative folks and I would be trying to figure out how to begin rolling it out with students, right? That we would have an import specifically from our attendance system into Canvas. That presented some challenges, and we just weren't ready, and that's okay. So we decided to start small and start with just one program, and that's the EL Civics program. Give you an idea as to how small our school is. There are 2 teachers in the EL Civics program. We are understaffed as well, so we are missing one teacher. So we decided that's a relatively small group of students. There are a number of materials on Canvas, and all of the materials that I created for EL Civics, they're all on Canvas. So let's start there, and eventually we'll enroll those students either manually or by import into Canvas. So that was our intention, but along the way, we needed to pivot again because we just weren't ready. So being able to do that and having teachers feel comfortable doing that has been really great. Again, one of our successes, I would say. Thinking outside the box, I would say, has been one of our successes as well, with trying to implement it specifically with EL Civics. If you're familiar with EL Civics, EL Civics is a performance-based assessments. And so that's a little different than what you tend to see in Canvas. You tend to see, assessments or tests that are multiple choice, or students are writing. Well, that's generally not EL Civics. So being creative in terms of how we created assessments and lessons for the EL Civics students has required us to think outside the box a bit. We are now sort of faced with what to do now, because the teachers have been trained. They are, some of them, one of whom I would say the most excited instructor is here with us today. They're raring to go, right? They're ready for the next step, which is to have students enroll and to start to make Canvas a part of what they do. But the institution is not quite ready for that. So how to manage momentum, I would say, is one of our challenges. So, if you use it or you lose it, right? And so I don't want the teachers to lose the momentum of not the knowledge, but also the desire to want to implement Canvas, right? So we're trying to think outside the box and find some creative ways for teachers to still be engaged, and for those teachers who are ready to have their students, to train their students and to have students enrolled in Canvas to do so. So I'd say that's where we are. Training all teachers and staff, but then focusing on one area at a time. I think I've said that, but that's one of the tips I wanted to present. Advocating for teacher prep and planning time, all staff really. Having a dedicated and experienced person working on Canvas. I thought that was me, but I'm not sure that is me. So it's really about bringing a team, right? And that has been really one of our strengths, I would say, at my program, is that each person, each member of the team brings something that their expertise, right? So yeah, I know Canvas. Yeah, I can, create lessons and such, and design instruction. I love to do that. But that technical side and what, for example, ASAP, needs, and how to deal with TOPS Pro and all of that is not fully my expertise. So to have someone on the team that can do that and speak that language has been critical. It's been very collaborative and very, what do you need? What does, what does admin need? What do the teachers need in order to be successful with this? Use of sandboxes. So Canvas, one of the things that Canvas, that you can do in Canvas is create basically a play area. I mean, it's literally called sandbox for that, right? So people can play in it. So making use of those sandboxes with the teachers, I think, has been one of our successes and one of the tips that I would offer you. In terms of let's see, anything else that I have here? Helping my teachers, I think, understand that the possibilities in Canvas are endless. I would say I've been using Canvas for, I don't know, 7 years or so, and I'm still surprised at what you can do and how creative you can be. I love that as an educator. What I love most is really the designing part of lessons, the creative part. I'm not creative in any other way other than lesson planning, and the possibilities are just endless. I'm just floored by how much you can do. I've participated in a lot of, as has the team at Santa Monica Malibu, in a lot of the training portal that's offered to you. Many of those I have been sometimes there and I'm the only one there. And I love that because then I can get some one-on-one support. It's been wonderful. I've made use of those helplines as well. So have my teachers. So that's all been very useful. And again, I'm just amazed at how much there still is to learn. I think that is all. The last thing I would say would be what our next steps are. I think I mentioned it, but our next steps would be to roll out Canvas in full to a group of students, whatever that may mean. That may mean, you know, as I said, rolling it out, enrolling them and training them. There's some good along the way. I went to CATISL. Hi, Anthony. And at that, their particular adult school had, or I don't know, it's out there somewhere. I can't remember what agency has it, but anyway, a sort of training for students that was really adult ed friendly. And so I haven't shared that with Santa Monica yet, but that's sort of what's on the radar, helping ESL students, you know, primarily, learn how to use Canvas and to then incorporate that into the classrooms, whether it be one classroom or one program or something to get that ball rolling, and then to, you know, again, keep that momentum with teachers so that we don't use it and have to, you know, retrain somewhere here soon. I wasn't watching the time, but I hope I didn't go over my time.
Thank you so much, Tanya.
Absolutely.
Thanks for kicking off the panel here with a lot of great ideas about what you've been doing so far at Santa Monica Malibu. If you do have questions for Tanya, go ahead and pop them in the chat. But I think what we'll do is let's turn it over to Alfred Miller from Berkeley Adult. We'll hear from Alfred, and then maybe we'll just take a pause for any questions for Alfred and Tanya. But go ahead and put those in the chat as well. We'll keep this train moving here. So Alfred, why don't you tell us what's happening at Berkeley Adult?
Sure. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. My name is Alfred Miller. I am from Berkeley Adult School. And similar to Tanya, I actually started with Canvas before we joined the pilot. As an instructor with adult students, I always kind of had the concept of an LMS in my mind. And we are, like most K-12 schools, they tend to be Google oriented. And our students do not receive a Berkeley Adult School email. So using Google Classroom was out of the question. So years ago, I don't remember how many years ago, I started researching all the different LMSs and came across like Schoology, Edmodo, all these different ones. Moodle was out there, but I kind of landed on Canvas and they had a way to use it for free. So I started to dump all my course materials in there. And then all of a sudden, when the pandemic hit, I was in pretty good shape. And then during the pandemic, we get an invite from the CDLP or whatever saying, would you like to join this pilot? And I was like, oh yeah, why not? You know, I already kind of know it. So they asked me to be an admin. So I have two roles with Canvas that I do teach with it, and I have many courses in it myself, plus I'm the admin. So I'll tell you a little bit about the admin side as we go along as well. But when we started the pilot, we were in the first group that started in we were invited in January of 21, I think it was. We started to get some trainings from Instructure, kind of late around April, May, I think it was, maybe March, don't quite recall. Those were quite good. I heavily encourage people to use the Instructure trainings. The people that they partner with do very, very good job. They put you in a sandbox, they let you play, you get the experience from the student side. So one really strong recommendation is for anybody designing courses. Student View, they have this thing called Student View. So when you design your course, you could look at it through Student View, but that's not always enough. You make yourself a mock student with your personal email or something, so you see it from the real student side. And that's more pleasurable because you'll see the real experience, especially if you're doing things like linking to Google Docs and such. Because if they're not signed into Google and all that, the student view doesn't let you do that. So that's one little tip I'll give you right off the bat. But so we did the trainings, and we had a person at our site, a data person, who was going to help link our student management system, and we happen to use ASAP. Not sure if everybody else here uses ASAP as well. So we kind of had the idea all along that we wanted to connect our student management system to Canvas. We didn't know exactly at the beginning, you know, how we wanted to link students and all that, but we wanted to at least create the linkage with it. So that was linked pretty early, but as we learned, as we went along the process, going through trainings, we had approximately, we handpicked a few students at the beginning. We're a relatively large school. I'm not sure of the size of Tanya's school, but we have approximately 70 or so teachers. So I'm not sure if that's around the size she is, but we're around 70. So we knew we were not going to roll it out to 70 teachers in one day or in one semester or even 1 year. So we know we're taking this quite slow. So we handpicked a few teachers, and we, unfortunately, for a couple of teachers, we picked a couple that were brand new to Berkeley Adult School and said, you're going to use Canvas. And one of them was actually a Google Classroom user, high school teacher. He jumped right into learning it, and his classes are pretty amazing. He's doing it with students. He started in fall of right after that year of learning. So he jumped right in with students. So it was pretty amazing. But kind of long story short, we went through the trainings. We had around approximately 10 people handpicked. I happened to be one of them, a couple of other people. And of those 10 people, pretty much 8 of us ended out using it with students in the fall of right after getting those trainings. So they built their courses pretty quickly over the summer. We have a curriculum specialist at our school, so she helped a couple of the people with some of that as well. So we built the courses, did the trainings. When we reached around October, we started to do it at one of our little staff development days. We said, hey, there's this opportunity out there called Canvas. So we planted the seed with our staff saying, you know what, there's this thing out there you might want to use, especially since we're still somewhat in a pandemic and such, but it's a different tool to give your students access to everything. And our school was really preaching this idea of access, giving your students access to your materials, access to you at a lot of different ways in a lot of different channels. And Canvas really offers that through, the emails, all that kind of great stuff, and different connections you could do through Canvas to meet with your students and provide office hours, et cetera, all that kind of cool stuff. So in around October, we did a little bit of just kind of announcing it out there, saying it's an opportunity. And then in January of 22, and actually in October, we added a few more teachers then. So we added, I don't know, maybe 4 more teachers approximately into Canvas. They started to try to learn it. A couple of them used it with students, a couple kind of didn't, but kind of saw interest in it, just got busy and such. But when we reached January, we had another sort of staff development day. But after that, we offered a Canvas opportunity to anybody who wanted to explore it. So we had around 13 teachers want to explore Canvas. So I did weekly trainings for about 6 weeks. So I happened to do the trainings as well, not just manage all the rosters and everything on the admin side, but I did a bunch of the trainings and let them play in a sandbox and tried to pick it up from there to gain some momentum. And it's really come on strong this year, ironically, that in the fall of this year, we've probably added, actually in the last few weeks, we've added 5 or more teachers actually building their classes, and a couple of them started using it with students already. So it's kind of exciting. It's actually starting to gain the momentum we were hoping that eventually it was going to be a slow rollout, because we knew we couldn't do it very large and we didn't want to handpick programs. So I'm CTE, I teach computer-based skills. So I'm doing it with some of my students. We have some academic teachers using it. We have a lot of ESL teachers using it. And our ESL program uses a thing called, their book or system is called Ventures. I'm not sure if other folks in the room here know about Ventures, but it comes with a shell you just dump into Canvas. They're already pre-made. Just similarly, if anybody used the old LMSs like Blackboard and such in the past, you could actually export your Blackboard stuff and just import it right into Canvas. So you don't have to redo a lot of work. So if you're lucky that whatever curriculum you use has what they call a shell, you might be able to bring it right in and manipulate and add in your flavor to it, if you know what I mean. You take what they give you and you're like, I kind of like that thing, kind of don't like that thing, and really add on and tweak the course to make it to be what you want it to be. That's part of the joy of Canvas to me, is that you can make your course have tons of things in it, but you get to control the utter flow of your course as well as what people get to see by publishing and unpublishing items, moving modules around. So you can really dictate what you want students to be able to see, because you might have certain classes where this audience feels like they're going to need more of this. I'm glad I put it into Canvas. It's there and available, but I don't have to publish it unless I think this group might need it. So Canvas does give you a lot of great control over how you flow your course. And the other thing that I would say is all of our teachers do use it in different ways. As I mentioned, we have a lot of our programs using it. Me, for example, it's more kind of like review. It's more supplemental to what I do in a class, more so than I drive my whole course through it. But the nice thing about it is you could dump in your entire course and even not use it with students and just use it as your own presentation technique with students. Adding students is a whole other level. And that does take, like Tanya said, somebody has to help get the rosters in there if they're not coming in through your SIS system. Also, that's what I have to do. I end up managing our rosters, but it's not that bad. And what I really love to do with the rosters is I make it as easy for the teachers as possible. So I purposely get their roster in for them, and I rewrite every student's password to a very simple word password. So it makes it very easy for our English language learner students to get in. They don't have to say, oh no, what password did I make? What's that crazy email that came from Instructure? I don't get it. And you basically get them a nice, easy password. And in fact, you don't even have to use emails to log in if you don't want to. You could use student IDs, you could give them usernames. So you can make it as easy as possible as you want to help your staff get your students into those classes when they want to. And there is going to be a bit of a learning curve. And we've had many of our teachers who are using Canvas with their students. They've made their nice little handouts and stuff that, you know, they'll have screenshots. You click this, you click that to really help them get into their course. And the other strong recommendation I would do anybody doing course building is, and you might learn this if you haven't in your trainings already about Canvas, you can control what links they see on the side. And you should really take a lot of those away. For especially English language learners, they don't need to see these crazy things on the left that say assignments, module, you know, they just need the very bare bones basic like modules and maybe grades if you do grades. But outside of that, they really don't need to see much else. And you really get to control the flow over everything. So the implementation process in general has gone well for Berkeley Adult School in that we started kind of with a small handful of people handpicked. Some other people started to gain interest, and we continually plant the seed. Recently, just the other day, our academic department had a meeting and somebody showcased their Canvas course that they just made, and they're going to start implementing this term that started yesterday, in fact. So they got to showcase it a little bit, starts to drum the interest from other teachers. Then they start to contact, when will we get trainings? Can you set me up with a sandbox or set me up with the course? And one nice thing about all the course stuff as well is CAPE does supply a nice little template that people could start with. It has 2 little sample modules of styles and design for how you can start to design your course. And they even have a course on how to use their template if you ever take the Instructure course on how to use their template, or you could design your own. What I'd like to get to in the final phases of a lot of this, we know as a school we won't get everybody in it, but if we could get most of certain departments like our academic department, we'd be really excited because we have a lot of independent study learners. Canvas is a great tool for that. I have some of those learners taking my Google class. They don't come at all. It's all asynchronous. They just do it through Canvas. I give them great feedback. I love Canvas for the feedback options. There's lovely feedback options. And some of the integrations we've added recently, like IXL and stuff, have really enhanced a lot of our teachers having more interest. We use something called IXL for math and writing. I don't know that much about it, but you can link straight to IXL exercises. It shows in the grade book minimally, but at least it gives teachers an impression of what their students are up to. So that's kind of been our implementation process. And just a quick little thing about the admin side. It depends how you as an admin want to do things at your school and how you might separate it out. Like Tanya said, she might have people that want to help more with the technical side. Some people might want to help more on the other side. For us, once we connected the student management system, it's actually pretty easy for me to get the rosters in. I can just go into ASAP, I click a few buttons, and then all of a sudden people start to appear in Canvas, and then I just rewrite their password. So it's not too bad. The only drawback is they contact me if they have to add a student. So they're not getting in instantaneously. You can circumvent that if you use ASAP, any of you, you can actually create Canvas courses from ASAP. But if you do that from your student management system, create the course and the course shows up in Canvas, then you have to copy in the materials for whomever might need those. So part of the admin side includes some of that copying stuff, managing of rosters, changing passwords as needed, and stuff like that. So you don't do stuff always on a daily basis, but you do have a little bit of a role that might come into play with that as well. So that's sort of, I think, what I mostly had to say. I'm not sure if anything else needs to be covered, but other uses of Canvas that we did also is that our new teachers, we made a course in Canvas that they go through to learn about our school, learn about the services at our school. So integrating Canvas in more ways like that. I've heard of schools that did their self-accreditation process that way. They actually made a Canvas thing for their self-accreditation. Staff got their input into the certain areas, however they did it. So you hear people using it in staff meetings. So lots of great stuff, I think, in different uses of how you could use Canvas. It's not just only a teaching tool, it's a school-wide tool. That's what I would say.
Okay, great, Alfred. Thanks so much for that introduction to Canvas at Berkeley Adult. We've had a few questions come through the chat, so thanks for putting those in the chat. Let's take just a pause for a second after listening to Tanya and Alfred's presentations. Does anybody have any questions so far about what's going on, what Tanya and Alfred have described, or anything that people want to contribute kind of in, along the lines of what they've shared so far? We could take those in the chat. You could come on mic also. It's a pretty small group. We're all friendly for the most part.
Anthony, Robert Gomez had the question. I generate ID-based accounts on my free account. What do you Canvas users do to notify students through Canvas without email? Okay. Anybody want to answer that?
If I understand the question correctly, you have a couple of options with Canvas for them to be notified, or where they can, you can send them an invitation and notify them or not. So I did it as a lesson in my class with my students. So like we all did it together. So, then if students weren't, for some reason, they didn't get the invitation, or they, did something wrong, right, to get in there, then we could work on it together. So I made it as a part of like digital literacy, a lesson in my class, the first few lessons of the semester. I hope that answered your question.
I can try to piggyback as well. In our experience with Berkeley Adult School, if I'm not mistaken, Canvas almost sends out an email no matter what. The only time it doesn't always send out an email is if you add a person yourself in Canvas and you uncheck the box that says email user about account creation. I think automatically, if it's pushing from your SIS, it sends it. If you add people into your course, it sends an invite and you can't block that. So what we've done to circumvent that, or I've told the teachers and trained them, is you're going to tell every student, ignore any email that comes from instructor for now. And you're going to give them these explicit instructions to log in. You go to this website, which has our special name. Your login name will be your email. The password is password. And then they've had pretty good success with that. And if you're trying to avoid them using an email to sign in, as Tanya mentioned, there are 3 different ways they could log in: email address, or you can do their SIS ID, or you can create a username. So you can decide to set that up yourself and decide how you want your students to log in. I did that for one of our lower level ESL classes. She wanted it to be their student ID number because she could look it up really easy for them if she had to, versus trying to hunt down emails and all that kind of stuff. And she knew the password would be password. So those are a couple of things.
Great. And then we also got a suggestion from Kim in the chat as well, about an admin function to do something similar too. So if folks want to take a look at that as well. Okay, I don't see any other questions at the moment. So let's turn it over to our next panelist, Ed Schmalzel, who's the principal at Clovis Adult, who's going to give us a little bit of a presentation on kind of maybe talking more about sort of school-wide. How do we work on getting Canvas sort of school-wide and being a cheerleader for Canvas in that respect? So Ed, why don't we turn it over to you?
Thank you, Anthony. I am a big cheerleader for Canvas, so thank you. I think I'm a huge fan. I'm at Clovis Adult Education right here in the Central Valley. We border Fresno. In fact, about 63% of our students come from Fresno and our surrounding community. I have my school is we had about 7,000 students go through our doors last year. 4,000 of those are community education. The rest are 3,000 plus are academic ESL and our vocational training students, mostly in allied health programs. And we also have a couple business programs as well. And we are in vocational training. We've totally brought on Canvas. So all our teachers are using Canvas as their learning management system. Prior to that, they were in Moodle. And I have to tell you, I have a large window that's outside my office and I get to see my parking lot. I just saw all of our Tuesdays, all of our nursing students are on campus. Love to see them come. And I actually just saw them all go, along with our ESL and academics classes just got off out of class. And I have a bike rack that's right outside. And so I was watching the students grab their bikes and about 10 of them take off. I'll bring it around, but the team approach has been super helpful and probably the very critical in convincing our teachers that they're going to be okay. They're going to be able to move from Moodle to Canvas and everything's going to be all right. But it started back in 2016 when I sent a DLAC team to OTAN's training, and then bringing that back, and then they brought that expertise into the school. And then in fact, my second DLAC team just went into got back from this weekend from training. So that was very critical in being able to bring them into the Canvas phase and using Canvas. But the bike rack, one of my Canvas leads is our director of nursing, and her name is Chuni McMahon. Chuni was born in South Korea, right at the very end of the Korean War. And she tells me, and she's giving me permission to tell her story. She, by the time she was 9 years old, her father had taught her how to use a bow and arrow and a whip to protect herself and her family because of the, at the board of the 38th parallel, murders and rapes and kidnaps would occur. And so she was prepared as a 9-year-old to protect herself and her family. At 21 years old, she immigrated to the Bay Area, and her family sent her on her own. And she realized that she needed to go to Mount Diablo Adult School to learn English. So she rode her bike to school. And if you know that area, there's a road called Unatia Valley Road, which has got to be about 500 feet elevation or higher. She rode that every day to learn English. And then the staff there, they encouraged her to keep on going. And so she went to Diablo Valley College, DVC, to earn her AA. After that, she moved to the Central Valley. She became a nurse assistant. She actually went to Clovis Adult Education to become a nurse assistant while she was going to Fresno State, and became an RN, and then concentrated and specialized in psychiatric hospital care. Now she's my nursing director, and she's our Canvas lead. I mean, do you need to know anything more to convince you about moving to Canvas? That it's just for me, it's a great story of our immigrants and what they have to go through. And now she's leading our school and our just incredible nursing program. I had to tell you that story, and it just came to me, and I just saw the bike racks, and I had to. It's so inspiring. So I want to start off with that. As a principal, I've always thought the best way to support was to be really clear on where we want our students to be at the end of the program, and build it together with our teachers of what our goals are for the end of the year, the end of the program, and then what are your obstacles? And then my job is to remove those obstacles. If it's a tool like Canvas, my job is to give them that tool and then support them all the way. When I went through last, I think January, with the training in Canvas as an administrator, I think I did a 4-hour make believe you're a student, and it only took me within an hour I realized what a great program. Just to, that student view, I would have been such a better student in school if I had that. It was just I tell you, I was sold. And then I came back the next day and I went through the training as a teacher, and I just knew that this is something I had to support, not only financially, but time-wise, and understand that our teachers are going to need some time And our team needs to lead them. So that's when we got another team together of 3, and they became our Canvas leads. We gave them time. We thought the best time we came up with Friday afternoons. Our classes are scheduled so at 12:30. Most of our classes are done, and we use that time as professional development. So it was time to support them and give them paid collaborative time and lunch. And they, after about 5 of those Fridays, they felt pretty good, and we were able to start that this fall semester. But it really comes down to that team approach. Having at least 3 leads was really helpful, because one of those is going to be able to connect with our teachers that might be struggling with convincing them or just helping them through the program. I have a wonderful data processor who, bless her, she's 75 years old, and she runs circles around everyone else, including me. And she was ready to go. And so she's been very helpful, and to do her role to help out the teachers and with Canvas. That's why, I just want to tell you from administrator's view, it is a fantastic tool, and my job is to give those tools and support and monitor throughout. All goes towards that student success. So this is just a great tool that I'm glad able to bring that. That's it.
Thank you, Ed.
Yeah.
As I put in the chat, shout out to Mount Diablo Adult Ed. That's my old stomping ground. There was a question in the chat. Maybe Ed, if you want to take this on, or any of the other panelists, about does an institution need to have a lead admin or teacher with apportioned hours? How do leads divide their time during the week? What is the funding source? Maybe Ed, do you want to tell us what's going on at Clovis with that?
Yeah, the way that I do this, I've always had if I do 3, always hasn't been that long. I use 1 admin, and then I always have 2 teachers. But my teachers, so right now my Canvas leads are my director of nursing, Chuni, who was a teacher for 12 years. So she now has that time as an admin. And then her second is a teacher on special assignment. So she's actually has half of her hours are in a classroom teaching, half her hours are outside supporting the programs. So that was just an ideal. I think I got a little lucky there, because our assistant nursing director usually does half and half split with teaching and then office work. So that probably doesn't answer that question. I just got real lucky with having teacher on special assignment be a Canvas lead, but maybe that's how you do it, is you split it.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Robert.
Thanks, Robert.
Thanks for accepting that.
Okay, thanks so much, Ed. And let's turn it over to Uta and James. So Uta and James, they are part of a consortium, sorry, my Latin, consortium. They're sort of a unique partner within the CDLC. Most of the participants are agencies, but I believe that at the moment, Renee, correct me if I'm wrong, they're the only one, or maybe one of 2 consortia that are actually members of the CDLC, but they're going to give us sort of a consortium perspective on being a part of the CDLC. So Uta and James, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Let's see what we can add to what has already been shared. Yes, we joined as a consortium. It took a moment to make that happen, but it came about because we here in San Diego East region, in 2019, we're searching for a new platform, or a platform that we could introduce as a learning management system. Mostly in the beginning to serve our health occupations programs, which had a higher need for training and testing modules. When we were deciding which platform to use, we wanted to align with our community colleges right away. We actually tried, in my position as the consortium manager, I tried to connect with my college partners, see if we could hop on their Canvas instance. That didn't go far enough. We were not able to join them, which I still think is unfortunate. But we moved forward anyway and purchased our own instance of Canvas. and actually started slowly training, similar to what Alfred described, just a core group of teachers, right? We wanted to build it out slowly and gather buy-in that way. That didn't pan out because we had to switch to online and virtual soon after. So we basically told all our teachers, let's do this. From now on, it's Canvas for all of us with whatever we can, right? So we hopped on it. Probably not the way to move forward if you have all the time in the world, but we ask all of our teachers to try and make it happen. Canvas is very intuitive. I think of all the learning management platforms, at least I'm familiar with, it's extremely intuitive for even novices. Yes, there's a learning curve, but one can sort of scaffold it, right? At minimum, there are some materials one can upload. James will talk about more about the details, but we, from the very beginning, we wanted to introduce through Canvas also more consistency and flow across programs. So do our share in breaking open these silos, ESL, ABE, ASE, CTE. So to foster that sort of conversation across our programs, we introduced a template, like a shell that had our logo and had some basic features that all of our teachers, we asked all of our teachers to follow. And so step by step, Canvas, from my perspective as the consortium manager, became that catalyst for really important conversations we needed to have. What does our curriculum look like, right? How do we align from ESL to ABE, for example, or how do we combine ESL and CTE training programs? How does that look like for a student and the student's experience in Canvas, right? It's extremely important that it's a smooth experience for a student, so they always know what is where in Canvas. So Canvas allows for that very clean, not simplistic, but cleaned up, simple interface that is also inviting to students. So Canvas for us became that catalyst for very important conversations we needed to have. What is a sound curriculum? What is the syllabus? What is UDL? And using Canvas as our tool in the process made a lot of these conversations much easier, right? Because they were anchored in that awesome tool and not somewhere else where sometimes it becomes difficult to talk about these aspects. It also allowed us, and that's a little bit effort you said, just to dump your content into it. We're sort of pushing against that a little bit because we also use Canvas as a catalyst for these sort of hygiene experiences and work that needs to be done, right? Clean out. It's not the Google Drive where just everything goes in, but rather it's a curated environment. And I think for very important reasons. What I'm excited about with this cooperative is the potential our shared commons has, right? We don't really have, as adult education institutions and providers, we don't really have a shared repository. Like the colleges have their repositories for syllabi and curriculum. We don't really have a sound system for that yet. So this common could also be our shared collective environment for best practices. So I see a huge potential for us to get stronger as adult education providers by showing basically the world that we have really, really important and good content. We weren't able to do this before. And I could even see that Canvas becomes this catalyst for partnerships with the colleges, right? It's doable in the background, like maybe we can move closer together, and there might be a moment in time where the Commons has adult education as a tag, as its own category, and community college faculty might tap into it. For some more details on how we use Canvas, I want to hand it over to James with one last note. We actually utilize Canvas as our tool for professional learning for our staff and faculty and teachers. So we model in each workshop, we offer how to use Canvas as a tool in a classroom in our professional learning workshop. And we model what kind of functionality teachers might explore with their students the next day, the next week, with the hope that we can that way also create learner portfolios for our teachers and staff. We're not there yet, but that's another awesome feature Canvas has. Every single user can have their own truly owned learner portfolio in Canvas. With that, over to James.
Thanks, Uta, and thanks to my fellow panelists. It's been really enlightening for me to hear how everyone else is kind of experiencing this. For our consortium, I'm the professional learning and learning management system coordinator. So I kind of wear two hats. As Uta mentioned, one of the ways we use Canvas is in our professional learning series. And I think it speaks a little bit to the student view that Ed mentioned. It's kind of a student experience that our teachers, staff, and administrators have being inside of our professional learning Canvas shell as participants in our professional learning workshops. One of the early successes we were able to achieve with Canvas was via, we offered twice per week drop-in Q&A sessions for our teachers and staff. And we encouraged them to come in as a group. One of the things that this was able to achieve, I think, was sort of bring about a sense of community, that we're all in this together, we're all learning this together, and it's okay to make a mistake and learn from each other. You know, I'll tell one story. I had a teacher really pretty timid about using Canvas. He was very afraid that he would break something, and I said, try to break it. You have a Canvas sandbox course. Go on in, it's your playground. You can't break it. Just try and play around and see what happens. And that really opened it up for him. And he ended up creating some pretty interesting content in there. That was one of our CTE teachers. Another resource we created along the way was a Canvas resource portal for teachers and staff with some resources sort of tailored to our consortium's experience. It contains tutorials. It allows teachers to figure out how to add students into their course. And that lives in our Canvas instance help button. So every teacher can always access that. And it has a list of resources. It also contains a static link to our Q&A sessions. So if teachers wanted to join a Q&A session via Zoom, they can always go right into that portal and click on that link at the standard time. Inside of that portal, another resource that we've been using to some success is a tailored checklist. So some of you in the room probably know Instructure provides a course design checklist based on principles of universal design for learning. It's pretty extensive. It's a great resource. To make it a little bit more approachable for our staff, one of the things we did was we took that checklist and we sectioned it out by areas within a Canvas course. So if you're interested in creating a homepage, you can have a homepage checklist. If you're interested in creating modules, you can have a module checklist, so on and so forth. And that lives inside of our Canvas resource portal. Teachers and staff can always get to it. We also encourage the teachers to take that checklist to their program director, who then publishes the course for them. So it's sort of this process that creates some standardization that Uta was speaking to earlier with our standard course shell that we also populate for all of our teachers. I think that someone earlier mentioned that buy-in is crucial. That's been probably our biggest challenge. Tanya mentioned, the possibilities are endless, right? And so keeping the message, keeping that positive momentum going, that creativity that I think teachers key in on in the early days has been a challenge. Canvas requires work. And I think that sometimes there's this perception that I can sort of drag and drop my materials into Canvas, but really they need to be, as Uta said, curated and designed for Canvas. And it does take work, but it's worth it in the end, right? It's going to increase student engagement. And then a challenge and an opportunity would be this idea that these other conversations are sort of catalyzed, they sort of bubble up through our Canvas work. And it's a challenge because sometimes those conversations can be difficult or even threatening in a way, but Canvas makes it sort of this safe place to talk about it by using this tool. One last thing is at the consortium, we've begun creating career readiness modules. So for things like resume prep, interview prep, job search, and we hope to eventually put that into our consortium commons to share out to teachers as needed. A teacher could pop one of those into her class and use it as needed. The CDLC has been really helpful. Renee really covered it earlier. There's three big points. Canvas Studio is amazing, and CDLC has given us that resource. Prior to joining the CDLC, I was sort of the sole field admin for our consortium. So if someone clicked on the help button and sent in a support ticket, I was fielding those. And now we have other people to help with that, which has been really nice. In fact, recently I was copied on an email from one of the other admins, and they went into our resource portal in order to answer the user's question, which was kind of neat. And then also finally that training services portal that a couple of people have already mentioned has been really kind of crucial in terms of onboarding, getting teachers in, letting them know that they have support kind of on demand. And it's something I really enjoy doing. Sometimes I go in and I'm the only person there and I get to ask all the questions that I want to ask. And that's been really, really helpful to have as well.
Okay, thank you so much, James and Uta, for that consortium perspective. So we're at about 3:45, so we're scheduled until 4. So what I want to do is, if you do have questions for any of the panelists, go ahead and put them in the chat. But I want to turn it over to Renee, because I know Renee does want to share information about joining the CDLC, how to learn more about the CDLC. So I want to make sure that we cover that before we finish today, and then we can close with any remaining questions that folks have. So Renee, let me turn it over to you. And while you are getting ready, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and share this slide as well.
Are you able to still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I thought that maybe one of my earbuds just died on me, so I wasn't sure that it was both or not. But I am playing dual role, remember, tech host and panel member. So I did just pop the evaluation in the chat if you can make sure to do that today. As far as joining the CDLC, I know many of you are already part of the CDLC, and we thank you for that. You guys are just, you are our champions. If your agency has yet to commit or jump onto the CDLC, we want to encourage you to do so. So the way that you can do that is to, you see in front of you on the screen, complete the Memorandum of Understanding to formalize your commitment. That Memorandum of Understanding is between Sacramento County Office of Education and your agency. It is allowing OTAN to work on your behalf to negotiate that kind of state leverage pricing and those services within structure on behalf of the adult education field. So I do know that that can sometimes take a little while. So we are willing to work concurrently with your agency to kind of get you started if you're anxious to get started as you're working through the MOU process. In some cases, it is a no-cost MOU because, like I said, we provide that instance or that URL for your agency at no cost to you, and we provide the first 50 licenses annually at no cost to you. So the only time you start spending money on low-cost licensing at the point that you want to extend licensing at your site for more than 50 people, whether that be teachers or students. So that's something that it would outline in the Memorandum of Understanding. There's also a Canvas expansion list. This is a way that an administrator can indicate interest in coming into the CDLC. We do ask that it be an administrator or a decision maker at your site. If you are a teacher that's attending today, we love that you are here, and we really appreciate the fact that you are probably going to be the cheerleader at your site, potentially talking to the administrator and bringing it on. But encourage your administrator to go to the Canvas expansion list and sign up, and that would be certainly an entry point to coming into the CDLC. And another route to do that is to email AE Canvas or Adult Ed Canvas, aecanvas@scoe.net. And this is kind of a separate support box specifically for Canvas that OTAN has created. And we encourage you to indicate your interest that way as well. So there are a lot of ways to kind of touch base with us, but certainly sign up via the expansion list or send an email to aecanvas@scoe.net. That will be the fastest way to kind of get your feet on the ground and running, and then we will help you work through the MOU process. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Anthony.
Okay, great. Thanks, Renee. And the screenshot here with the MOU, the expansion list, and the email. So when you go to the that dedicated CDLC page on the OTAN website, I put the link to that in the chat, but you'll find this information basically at the bottom of that page. We have a lot of other information about the CDLC and about Canvas resources and structured resources on that page, but just scroll towards the bottom of that page, and then the MOU, the Canvas expansion list, and the link, the email link there, you'll find those towards the bottom of that page. So let me stop sharing, turn it back over to the panel. So we have about 10 minutes left or so. I want to see if I think there were some other questions in the chat. I know that we've sort of talked around the Adult Education Canvas Commons. So basically it exists. I will say, however, we do need to do a little bit more education on how folks can actually contribute to those commons. And so we need to do kind of some internal work on that, some internal training on that, but hopefully as more agencies consider joining the CDLC, we'll make those instructions clear so that if you have courses from your agency or consortium that you would like to add to those, to the Adult Ed Canvas Commons, and then also if you want to be able to access those courses as well, then it'll be clear about how you do that. So Patricia and others, we're going to do some more work on maybe making it clear on how to actually access the Commons, the Adult Ed Canvas Commons. So, Kim asked a question, maybe one or more of the panelists can take this one on. There are a lot of add-ons available for Canvas, but can you review again what the basics are that come with the CDLC version? I don't know if anyone has that experience with adding any of the add-ons. I think James was gonna chime in on that.
Anthony, I think, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, Kim, but I think you were wondering what comes with the license for that we've negotiated with Instructure. And if that's the case, what I've just put in the chat is what we have.
Okay. Got it.
So probably, I'm sorry, Anthony, just probably another big one that we probably don't talk often enough about is that cost to kind of invest in Canvas to begin with. That initial setup can run anywhere from $16,000 to $70,000 per agency. So it can be very, very pricey. The fact that agencies can get it at no cost through the CDLC, they're saving a lot of money for their agency. So it's not something that we talk about a lot, but we should be probably. That should be a part of our elevator speech. Anyhow, okay.
Yeah, actually, we met with some of our Instructure colleagues last week, I think, or maybe the week before. They were in town doing some training, and they were actually kind of taken aback as well on that $550 per license. They they have not really seen that rate being offered across the country, as it were. So yeah, I think we've done a pretty good job on the negotiating side here, and we really hope that agencies in California do consider joining the CDLC, particularly for that low-cost license fee, as well as kind of getting onboarded onto the CDLC and the training that's available and all that. Okay, were there other questions in the chat? I'm just kind of running through it quickly just to see, or if anybody in the room still, if you have a question that you want to ask the panelists about what they presented on, you can come on mic, or if you want to add that to the chat. Just a second to see if there are any other questions at the moment. Actually, let me ask the panelists, was there anything else you wanted to add that maybe you missed, or maybe you heard something that another panelist said that you wanted to add on as well? I know that you've given us a lot of information, a lot of good things to think about. So any final nuggets of wisdom or anything you want to share with the group here?
Just go for it, get it. I hope the fee stays the same and doesn't change. That's just incredibly attractive. There's no way that we would ever get such a powerful tool elsewhere for that period, for that fee. It has so many bells and whistles. It's fun, it's encouraging, it's motivating. It also helps with something I think we sometimes don't have a good handle on. It offers a lot of rubrics, so you can integrate rubrics into almost anything to get a better handle on multiple assessments, to create true objective criteria, right? That you can use for professional learning to assess competencies we have as adult learners, and the same was true for students. Works a lot better than scores.
Thank you. Tanya, did you want to chime in?
Yes, just going back to the concept that concept of the possibilities are endless. There are so many like workarounds, even for the things that may not be included, in the package. For example, Zoom. So with my community college system, right, like Zoom comes right along with that. It doesn't for, at least not for my site, right? But the training and getting tech support and just talking to others and all, there are all kinds of workarounds for things that you want to do or that you want to add as a part of your instance, whatever it may be. You want to add, an extension, you want to add Zoom, you want to, customize the student experience, just anything that you want to do or any look that you want, it is possible. I can't tell you what they are, but I know they are out there and, for the taking.
And to piggyback off that a little bit, we at Berkeley Adult School, I got what's called the SCORM add-on, SCORM. Those are called e-learning packages that a lot of websites use for their videos, where they become clickable and they have the table of contents and all that kind of stuff. And there's a website out there that let me download all their SCORM packages. So I was able to import those SCORMs straight into Canvas and have my course run through Canvas to track it, instead of sending my student off to a totally different website and say, you go, remember what you finished, all that kind of stuff. So there's like she said, there's these different little add-ons you can do. And if anybody needs to do the Google one, the Google's free. You can actually, it's interesting, if you go into the integrations area, you read about it, it says, just use this secret key. They actually provide you with the key you're supposed to use to connect it and make it work. So most of the other integrations, you kind of often have to have an account with that company. Like we have a Pear Deck one. If anybody's heard of Pear Deck, our school district has Pear Deck. Luckily, they included the adult school with it. Most of the K-12 integrations, they don't give the adult school, unfortunately. So like the Ed Puzzles, because there's one for Ed Puzzle, which of course is like Studio. I know some of our staff prefer Ed Puzzle. They've used it for years. Studio is similar, but there is an Ed Puzzle one if your institution or agency uses Ed Puzzle. So there's lots of neat integrations out there, but usually that has to be connected with what you're paying for with that company.
Great, thank you. I'm going to put in the chat just again the email address, the aecanvas@scoe.net. So, as a community, as an adult education community, as we learn more about Canvas and uses of Canvas and innovations with Canvas and things like that, make sure to reach out to us at OTAN in Sacramento. Kind of keep us in the loop as to what you're working on at your agencies with Canvas. I will say too, in addition to the training that Canvas does provide via the CDLC, OTAN is also willing and able and happy and very happy to also do in-person training at your agency on Canvas. Even, if you have a group of teachers, you want to get them onboarded or intro to Canvas or whatever the case may be. Send us those training requests and we'll take a look at them and see if we can connect you with an OTAN staff member or one of our subject matter experts from around the state who we can send to your agency for more Canvas training and onboarding and things like that. We want to make sure that you all feel supported and if you need help with onboarding some of that buy-in that we talked about today, we're certainly happy to be a part of that as well. So make sure to email us and in touch with your questions, training requests, things like that, and we'll see how we can support you along the way. So I think we're at 4 o'clock. Renee once again put the link to the evaluation form in the chat. So if you could fill that out, that would be super duper. Otherwise, we're at 4. I really want to thank Tanya, Alfred, Ed, Uta, James, and Renee for all of their information shared today in our session. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we get our session recorded. So if you want to come back to it later or share it with your teachers and colleagues at your agencies, you'll be able to do that shortly. But otherwise, thank you so much for attending today's session. So great to hear from our experts in the field on Canvas use and just what's going on in the field too. That's always great to hear. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. We will see you tomorrow for day 2 of the CAPE Summit. And otherwise, take care. And we will see you again. And thanks again to our panelists.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.